This is the Brave New Coin Crypto Conversation, hosted by Andy Pickering.
Hi everyone, Andy Pickering here. I'm your host and welcome to the Crypto Conversation, a Brave New Coin podcast where we talk to the people building the future in the Bitcoin, blockchain and cryptocurrency space. Hi team, welcome to the show. Got an important message from our sponsor Masterworks, who, like all of us, I think were hoping that Bitcoin would be the gold standard for inflation hedges. After all, it's not like the Fed can print any more Bitcoin, right? But so far as an inflation hedge, Bitcoin is not quite there. And don't just take it from me. According to a new Bank of America report, Bitcoin has failed as an inflation hedge for a while now. However, there is another alternative asset they're urging investors to buy right now. I'm talking about fine art. Yes, the last time inflation was this high, art appreciated by 33.2% annually. That's significantly better than stocks, gold, and even real estate. And protecting your wealth with top-tier art isn't a new concept, but investing in art by icons such as Andy Warhol, Picasso, and Banksy used to be an option for the ultra-rich only, people like Elon Musk, Cathie Wood, and Jeff Bezos. However, now we have Masterworks, the fintech unicorn from New York, which allows everyday individuals to also invest in blue chip art. They let you buy shares of multi-million-dollar paintings, so you get the upside of that art as an asset without the high costs. Over 500,000 people have signed up, and if you want to stay ahead of the curve and hedge like the best, just head to masterworks.com and use the promo code CryptoConversation for priority access. That's masterworks.com, promo code CryptoConversation. And you can see important disclaimers at masterworks.com/CD. All right, folks, now it is on with the show. My guest today is Simon Harman. Simon is the founder and CEO of Chainflip, a cross-chain AMM designed to seamlessly allow users to swap tokens across ecosystems without violating chain sovereignty. Very cool. Simon has also built Session, a secure messaging app based on the Signal protocol. Hey, welcome to the show, Simon.
Thanks very much, Andy. Thanks for having me.
Hey, it is a pleasure. Really good to have you here, Simon. Let's do what we do at the beginning of the show, which is I'll invite you to please introduce yourself. Love to just hear a little bit about your journey, your story, who you are, and I suppose, what you've been doing kind of in the lead up to getting involved in the wonderful world of crypto.
Yeah, thanks very much. I'm one of those weird people that didn't really have much of a life before crypto. I bought Bitcoin while I was still in high school, so it's been consuming my whole adult life, you could say. But I did do some things in the music industry for a while I was in university, which was pretty cool. Did a little bit of stuff in the army as well. Learned a lot there. But yeah, really, my interest in startups and crypto has been running throughout my whole adult life, and learned a lot very quickly. I guess the philosophy of Bitcoin really appealed to my 16-year-old naive energy, I suppose. And from there I was really fortunate to have a circle of friends where we really explored not just cryptocurrency, but the technology behind it and all of the financial instruments and trading tools that came along with all of the fun that we were having through the early days of Ethereum and everything else. And then every couple of years since then, the whole space just keeps changing, and it's endlessly exciting, endlessly frustrating. It's all sorts of things. I guess before Chainflip, the main thing that we did was in 2017, after I'd finished up doing a bunch of events in the music industry, I had managed to get myself a gig as the event manager for this co-working space called the Blockchain Center. And this was at the tail end of 2017. So pretty quickly, these sort of weekly and then daily meetups we were having, we'd fill this sort of semi-derelict office up with like 400 people. And lots of interesting conversations around that time, as I'm sure you can imagine. Of course, when the market then tanked at around Christmas time, that quickly went away. But during that, I met some really interesting folks from my home city of Melbourne in Australia, and we founded a project called Loki, which is now called Oxen. It's a privacy project. We built a secure messaging app called Session, which still really excites me. It's kind of like Signal, except all the messages are distributed across our blockchain network, and that has a bunch of metadata advantages. There's no phone numbers. Everything is also onion routed through our own onion routing protocol as well. So really just trying to clear out the remaining metadata from the messaging equation, and the traction with Session's been getting better and better as time goes on. Some really exciting stuff coming up there, but my 3 co-founders now run that because in 2020, we started writing this research paper for Chainflip, and then, one thing led to another, I guess, and now I'm here in Berlin. So that's a nutshell.
Awesome. And I was just looking at your website or your GitHub about page, Simon, and you mentioned your kind of, I guess, youthful idealism or naivety, which is that's a good thing to have. And in my view, we need more. Do we need more idealists in crypto? I think it's good to have that balance anyway. But you talk about how you say your work is inspired by democratic values, and how you've written extensively about the nascent and emerging field of crypto economics. And then you talk about how you kind of been struck by this, these very interesting but sometimes deeply problematic phenomena in the industry, and your aim is to define and draw attention to the various games being played in the industry, and to design or evolve better games which can be used to improve the stability and performance of cryptocurrency assets. And I just, that's kind of quite an idealistic way of approaching things, but a really interesting way of approaching things. So I suppose just before we start to get into, Chainflip, I'd love to just kind of, get a sense of what you mean by, the interesting and sometimes deeply problematic phenomena in our industry.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know if I would call myself an idealist these days. I feel more and more like a crusty old man sometimes, but as time goes on through the crypto industry, we see lots of new games being created. I think that's a helpful way of describing it. A good example would be the emergence of yield farming in 2020. And, the structure of that game is very interesting, right? With, it's framed as liquidity incentives, and they are in many ways, but the game that the people that doing the yield farming are playing is not actually to do with liquidity or fees or anything like that. It's especially in those days, it was very much a sort of game of chicken that people were willing to play. And you see the same sort of thing playing out in pretty much every vertical that you can think of, NFTs, the exchange markets, so on and so on. So there's really, and then obviously I think the biggest game that I've seen played has to be UST and Terra, which obviously ended in tears. But there is clearly some games which are helping protocols and serving users, and there are others which might, and there are others which haven't or won't. And I guess, as I've watched these games come and go, I really find it interesting to see how these games actually work, what the meta game actually is. So, okay, there's a stated idea, there's a stated objective behind particular financial instruments or behind particular on-chain mechanisms or off-chain mechanisms. But what is actually going on in the background? Why are people interacting with this thing? What do they expect to gain from it? What do they think the rules of the game are? And I just find all of that, one, very interesting, and two, quite frustrating when there's there's kind of this pretense which is not really representative of what's going on in the background. But that's the world that we live in, and that's the world that the cryptocurrency industry has really thrived off, I guess. It's meant that new ideas have been created in incredibly high volumes and with incredible frequency as well. So while I do think that many of the games are problematic and fundamentally maybe not zero sum, but pretty close to it. There is a real question as to, how valuable it really is, because there's clearly a lot of products that have been created as a result, many of which are genuinely useful and are advancing the industry forward, some of which maybe not. So yeah, that's kind of what I meant on that old site.
Yeah, I like it though, Simon. It makes sense, and it reminds me of, I don't know if you're familiar with a post that Kobe Cobain, the kind of the Twitter pseudo-anonymous identity. He's not even pseudo-anonymous these days, but yeah, he wrote a Substack called Trading the Metagame, which is quite similar to what you're talking about, and I can very much relate to that. And yeah, you do see these new metagames emerge, and then the hot money floods in, and then the smart money gets out, and then the cycle continues as people move on to whatever the next hot thing is. And I think one of the things that I remember Kobe talking about is, people get stuck in old metagames and old narratives that are no longer true. And I think that's very much the case in the fast moving world of crypto. All right, well, let's move to Chainflip then, I suppose, Simon. So yeah, I mean, let's understand what Chainflip is at a high level, and perhaps kind of weave in the origin story. When did this kick off for you guys?
Sure thing. So this kicked off for us right around the time Bitcoin hit $3,000 at the start of the pandemic. Frank, I'll be very frank and honest. At the time, Loki, we were in a bit of a tight place. We weren't really in a position to raise new funds. We'd been running for 3 years at this point, and our products were live, but we still hadn't achieved product market fit, and we were a bit concerned about how we were going to get there with the resources that we had. So we started brainstorming, right as things were locking down and everything like that. But we figured out that there were potentially some ideas that we could work on. And one of them was suggested to us by someone who'd been involved in our previous fundraising. And this idea of a cross-chain DEX. So we liked the idea. For example, Shapeshift was a very popular product that I thought was extremely cool back in the day. I still think it's extremely cool. It's changed what it is now, but this idea that I can just go to a website and then just send money to this random address and get money at the other end somewhere. I just thought that was super futuristic.
Me too. Those were the glory days of Shapeshift hashtag 2017. Yeah, what a time.
Exactly. So I was like, okay, if we can build a cross-chain DEX, there's this thing called an AMM, which is cool. It sort of solves to this problem of liquidity in a decentralized way, which is great. Of course, then, as we're writing this paper, the DeFi summer rolls around, and it's now everyone knows what an AMM is. It's wouldn't it be great if we could do Uniswap on everything? So there was this really great moment where it all just sort of came together. But we pretty quickly realized that, we didn't have the resources to do both Chainflip and all of our other products. And so we made the decision to make Chainflip an independent project, and that has been very successful because now there are two teams working on these two different product lines. I'm still involved in both, but Chainflip has been my main focus for the last couple of years now. Now, what is it exactly? It's all very well saying, oh, well, it's a cross-chain AMM, it's a Uniswap for everything, but that's a very surface level description. And lots of people are saying that sort of thing right now. So how does it work? I guess the way to think about it is, if you have a centralized exchange, right? What it really is on the back end. Let's just use Binance as an example, because everyone loves Binance apparently. It's really just some servers run by Binance, and there's sort of two distinct systems going on at the same time. One you could sort of describe as a settlement layer. So, when you click on your wallet and you go deposit, what that's doing is it's generating an address that Binance controls, that you can send funds to, and then once you've sent funds to it, Binance will then include it in your account balance. And so then you can move those funds into the accounting system. You can do whatever trading you want there. They have order books, like swaps, whatever the case may be. It just updates this virtual balance within Binance's system. And then at the other end, you come back to your wallet and you click withdraw, and then it's sending you funds back out the other side directly from Binance's wallet. So what we're doing at Chainflip is actually not too dissimilar from that. Rather than using these complex smart contracts or zero knowledge things or other sort of proofs to sort of manage this in a way where there is no controlling entity, we're actually using our decentralized validator network that are collateralized in a flip token to essentially create a very similar system. We have a bunch of different wallets on a bunch of different blockchains, and you can request to the network to receive a deposit address. Once you've received that deposit address, you send funds to it, and then your swap can be processed automatically through the system. So rather than having a central service that is being that is receiving and sending funds and also has a trading system in the middle, we have a decentralized service, decentralized custody, if you will, that is sending and receiving funds. And in the middle, instead of an order book exchange, we have an on-chain AMM. It's in our own magical blockchain, built on Substrate, sitting off in outer space somewhere. And we can process all of the different swaps. You can add liquidity, all the usual things that you'd expect from a Uniswap-like experience. So yeah, that has a bunch of advantages. One being that we can support any arbitrary blockchain network. It doesn't have to support smart contracts or anything like that, because all we need to be able to do, all the network needs to be able to do, is receive money on that network and send money on that network. All of the complex swapping and other logic can happen off-chain. We can also automate a lot of things. Unlike a lot of smart contract platforms, we can actually have processes running all the time to make sure that the system is working effectively. We can customize the execution environment to make sure that we have something that's suitable for cross-chain swaps, and a range of other things. Pricing is one of those things that we can do really, really well, much better than other solutions that I see out there at the moment. So yeah, that's kind of the idea. It's sort of taking the best business model we know for spot exchanges on crypto and basically just making it decentralized. That sounds easy, but it's not. But yeah, that's what Chainflip is.
Yeah, no, it's not easy, and you're right. There's there's a huge need and demand for exactly that. This being able to cross different assets from different chains quickly and easily. And I'm curious then, Simon. What can you tell us about the the kind of the growth or the users metrics that you guys are seeing? How many people are using it?
0. We have been building this thing for 18 months now, and unfortunately we are not at the stage where we have a live swapping product at this stage, but we have had several testnet programs now which have been very successful. We've got a really great community set up with our validator network. And yeah, we're really excited to be able to push the button, but at this stage, we're still waiting on some audits. We've got trailer bits booked in January, which we're really excited about. This has been a long uphill battle, 18 months of development, and we've got 17 engineers. And it's not a small challenge. So yeah, I'm really excited to get this out on the market, because I think that we'll be able to compete very effectively on price for a lot of things. And especially now that it looks like cross-chain aggregators are actually the way to go. It doesn't look like individual protocols are really going to have much success at trying to capture user bases themselves. I think because of the nature of aggregation, where some protocols are served by some cross-chain systems, others are served by others. Where we're really going to focus on the really liquid, high volume pairs. So, your Bitcoin, Ethereum, that sort of, those sort of pairs, which are really popular on centralized exchanges, but may not be really well served by the EVM compatible cross-chain solutions that are currently out there. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. But there is still a lot to do. It's a intricate system and very interconnected as well. So getting the thing end to end tested, the whole thing has to work. But we're not so far off now, which is good news.
Yeah, and so you're right. So I'm looking at your website, and yeah, because I was looking at this earlier today, and you're right. So it does say, yes, hey, if you want to stay in the loop, and people want to stay in the loop and be advised when they can start flipping, well, they can just add their email to your list, I guess. But you've got a really quite impressive looking list of backers, though, Simon, and I suppose that's certainly also another reason why you want to try and get all the auditing done and get this right the first time. So talk me through, I guess, what you've done, some kind of raise, presumably. I can see names like Framework and Coinbase Ventures, Delphi Digital, amongst others.
Yeah, that's right. In September 2020, when we made Chainflip independent, the fundraising began, and it basically continued for about 9 months. We did several token rounds, which were where we got a lot of our backers from. If you look at the list, a lot of them are like DeFi funds from that sort of 2020, 2021 era. Later on, we also closed a $10 million equity round with Framework. There was a follow-on round with Framework and Blockchain Capital, as well as Pantera, who joined as well. And that's kind of where we're at. That's in total, we raised about $19 million US, and that is pretty much all we need operationally to get this thing off the ground. But we do have some future fundraising plans coming up, being potentially another equity round, depending on how things go. But I think the main event is really the LBP, where the protocol is really seeking some funds to use as market-making liquidity for the exchange itself. So it is a liquidity bootstrapping pool that's typically meant to mean that it's for the token that is being raised for. But in this case, we're going to split that between the Flip token itself and the actual exchange to make the product liquid. So we also do have a number of deals with existing investors as well. A lot of those token deals that we signed were conditional on them running validators or providing liquidity in an active manner on the Chainflip exchange once it's up and live. So we've kind of come at this from a range of angles, and our backers are mainly mostly oriented towards helping out with this infrastructure and liquidity side of things, because we can't do it alone. But it's been really exciting and really fun. I've met many of them now at the various conferences that go around, and some of them are really awesome, and I'm very, very grateful to a lot of the people on that list.
Awesome. And we'll just to clarify again, then, when do you expect to deploy, to move from testnet to mainnet? What's the rough timeline?
So a phase 0 launch, if you want to call it that, Sandstorm. If you like music, you can also call it that. We've got basically a few more things to tidy up, but then we're pretty much ready to push the button. And what that will look like is we'll be running our LBP and launching our validator network as well. There needs to be a bit of time for collateral to build up within the validator network before we can start securing any liquidity. So there will be a gap between sort of the mainnet validator launch and the swapping app itself. At the moment, we still don't really have a firm date on the swapping app and the network upgrade that will come along with that. As I said, the audit's in January, so unfortunately that looks like it's still going to be a little while away, but I'm very confident that we can hit that mark. I guess mainnet launch, or the token launch and the sort of phase 0 mainnet launch, that'll come probably, I'd say, I don't know. It's very speculative. Towards the end of the year, I guess. We're already not that far away, really. It's nearly the end of August already, and I don't know how that happened, but here we are.
Yeah, it's funny that August already, man. The years, they just keep going by. All right, well, let's just zoom out a bit as we finish off this part of the podcast, then, Simon. I'd love to firstly just to get your thoughts on how you see DeFi evolving, I suppose, in the medium term, and what you see as the promise, potential, and mission for DeFi, and how far along that path are we, and what is going well, what is not going well, and just how do you see DeFi at the moment?
Great question. I mean, there's a lot of hope and optimism and idealism, if you will, in the summer of 2020. It's like, wow, we can build all these crazy products that normal people can't access on chain, and then everything will be awesome. Of course, that didn't immediately happen, but a lot of those ideas are still very relevant. 2 years ago, we didn't really have, a little more than 2 years ago now, we didn't have lending markets on chain. We didn't have popular on-chain exchanges. We didn't have insurance on-chain. We didn't have a range of products. And now, I guess, the efforts that I see in DeFi that I think people find exciting are mainly oriented towards, in general, there's a whole bunch of products on there that you can say are roughly equivalent to those offered by traditional financial institutions, but on-chain. And that's really exciting, sort of interest-bearing products. You've got various lending products as well. Obviously, they're not quite the same. You also have, exchange and swapping products, options markets, derivatives markets, like all of these things showing up. Unfortunately, I think it's safe to say that there are no real new products that have been created explicitly by DeFi. I'm not sure that's really possible. Money markets have been around for a long time. And I guess, what we really have to focus on is leveraging the benefits of doing this on-chain to build products that are more useful to more people. And I think a big part of that equation is going to be what happens with stablecoins over the next few years, because, if DeFi is really going to transform or at least supplement the traditional financial markets, it's really got to be denominated in something that the real world wants to trade in. I think this idea that, Bitcoin is going to be used for remittance and all that, it's like, why bother when USDC is already out there? I mean, if I'm Coca-Cola, I'm much more likely to use USDC than I am Bitcoin, for example, for a variety of reasons. With the foreign exchange, the exchange rate volatility being the most obvious one, but let's sidestep that for now. Obviously there's a lot of regulatory talk going on at the moment. There's a lot of censorship talk going on at the moment as well, which is always a concern. Censorship resistance is one of the main things that makes cryptocurrencies attractive in the first place. And I think that is largely being undermined in many ways at the moment. And I understand why that is the case, but there needs to be some pretty fierce resistance to that, I think, because that to bring the cryptocurrency industry into line with the requirements of the traditional financial industry removes a lot of value for the cryptocurrency industry. And I think for countries like the US or potentially the European Union as well, this tendency to simply ignore the new system and crush it effectively as soon as it becomes problematic, because people do bad things with money. That's just the reality of the world. There's a real opportunity cost there that I'm not sure is being really realized. The US dollar wants to remain the global reserve currency. Then why not allow it to really flourish by allowing it to be traded and used in this brand new financial system where remittance is extremely cheap, everything's extremely transparent, and there's a whole range of products that come attached to that. So I really think there's a massive opportunity for the US to really benefit from stablecoins in particular. And I know a lot of crypto heads, especially from back in the day, won't like me saying that. I think old me would definitely not like me to say that now, but there's definitely a lot to be said for DeFi and its products being utilized to help stabilize the world economy, because obviously it's an extremely turbulent time at the moment. And I think the blockchain industry does have a lot of very powerful tools that can be used to, shore up the global system and keep things going.
Yeah, a turbulent time indeed. And well, just to finish off this part of the podcast, the other kind of, I guess, big picture thing I'd love to get your thoughts on, Simon, really is, of course, the merge. So, if, everyone is very interested in Ethereum at the moment. It is probably the dominant narrative in crypto. And of course, the merge now, 2, 3, 4 weeks out max. How do you assess the merge? How are you thinking about it?
Finally, if I had to summarize it in one word, but yeah. No, I'm really excited about it. I mean, I think it's been a long time coming. I'm a big advocate for proof of stake in general, not just because of the energy savings, but actually because I think it's a safer, more decentralized consensus model. And I know that might be a controversial thing to say for some people, but I think from the protocol design and research that I've done, it seems to be the case to me that proof of stake networks are much more attack resistant. And so I think for Ethereum, sort of the leading network to finally make the change, I think it's really, provided it all goes well, which I'm absolutely sure that it will, provided it all goes well, I think it's really going to legitimize and sort of cement the future of consensus mechanisms in the industry. And I think it's going to, like over the first year of its operation, we're really going to see another paradigm shift in the attitudes of particularly the more vocal opponents to Ethereum itself and proof of stake and that sort of thing. And so I think that's very exciting. But I've been holding on to my ETH for quite a while now, waiting for this merge, locked up in validators. So I don't want to sell it, but it would be nice to get my ETH back. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Awesome. All right. Well, that feels like a nice place to go to a very quick break, and then we'll come back. We'll have some fun. We'll run Simon through the very famous crypto conversation hot take round. Back in 1 second.
Here's what's being said about Masterworks.
My name is Jacob N. I'm from Long Island, and I've invested over $73,000 with Masterworks. My portfolio performance just wasn't cutting it. I researched all these alternative investments, like crypto and NFTs, but they didn't make sense to me. Then I read about Masterworks in Forbes, and I signed up right away. And now you can too. Thanks, Masterworks.
Get VIP access at masterworks.io and use promo code JACOB. See important disclosures at masterworks.io/DC.
And we are back, and I'm with Simon Harman, founder and CEO of Chainflip, the cross-chain AMM, which is designed to seamlessly allow users to swap tokens across ecosystems. As we've learnt, not quite live yet, but it's getting closer. It's getting closer. Some heavyweight backers. Very, very promising platform Chainflip looks like. So, yeah, can't really do anything but just wish you the best of luck as you progress, Simon. But I like to finish each podcast with a quick round of rapid-fire crypto conversation hot takes. Are you up for it?
I'm mildly terrified, but I'll do it.
That is the correct answer. But I'm just going to run some quick questions at you, Simon. No right or wrong way to do this. Just give me your best kind of hot take, quick and punchy answers. Question 1 coming at you is, Simon, where would you say that you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-chain opportunist spectrum?
Well, I mean, I run a multi-chain company, so I think that answers that question.
It really does. All right, well, what would you say then is your firmest conviction crypto opinion, Simon?
Don't hold convictions too firmly.
Yeah, what is that? Loose, strong opinions loosely held, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. It's so much change. It's not worth it. Don't do it.
Yeah. Okay, well, Bill Gates famously said that we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in 2 years and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10, right? So cast your mind forward, anything you like here, metaverse, Web3, blockchain, DeFi, what does it all look like in 10 years' time?
I know a lot of people say this, but I genuinely think that a lot of these tools will simply become a part of the system that everyone uses, and we won't really think about it or talk about it, but it will be good. That's it.
Just abstract away the complexity and make it simple and easy. How hard can that be?
Not hard at all.
Indeed. Sci-fi author William Gibson said that the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. Can you think of an example, Simon, of the future being here right now, but most people just aren't really aware of it?
Within crypto?
Within anything. Open, anything.
I learned something very interesting the other day about cloud seeding, which has been an extremely controversial topic for like 40 years. But apparently, in the places where trials have been run for a number of years now, there's been zero environmental impact and increased rainfalls of about 15% on an annualized basis. And the trick is not to do cloud seeding when it's dry, but to do cloud seeding when it's wet to get more water in the ground. And I think that as a climate change mitigation strategy, I reckon it's going to be pretty much all over the place, especially in like more arid climates or temperate climates such as my home country of Australia. So don't be scared. It's coming for you.
Yeah. Okay. So cloud seeding and nuclear power. What's your nuclear power? Are you on board the kind of rebranding of nuclear power as a kind of clean, green energy? Like I'm from New Zealand, and here we famously banned nuclear-powered submarines and warships from even entering New Zealand waters back in the 80s. So but it feels like there's a move to rebrand nuclear.
Absolutely. I mean, I live in Germany now, and they've been trying to shut down their nuclear power plants for a very long time. They've now decided to keep them on because it turns out when the Russians cut your gas off, you kind of have a problem. I'm deeply saddened by what has happened to the nuclear power industry and all the lobbying against it over the last 30, 40 years. And I really genuinely believe that we would not be in such a dire situation had we actually had a rational discussion about the real dangers of nuclear energy, which are not nearly as great as I think many people believe it to be. And it's made it very difficult for politicians to make the right long-term decisions for society. So I'm sad, but I'm not sure if it will change, to be honest, but I remain optimistic.
Best way to be. All right, time to zoom out, time to get weird just for a second. If we haven't got weird already, Simon, what do you see as the long-term future for the human race? Do you see utopia or dystopia?
I see humans fundamentally changing in many ways. Maybe not so much in this sort of AI singularity idea, which seems to be very popular, but I think as our medical technology improves, as our understanding of the brain improves, as computer-brain interfaces become widespread and accessible, I think that's going to have some pretty serious implications for how everything works. I mean, so much of our society today is predicated on the idea that we will eventually die. What if that is no longer necessarily true, if there isn't an expiry date on our lives? How is that going to change? Like that's going to fundamentally upend basically every cultural norm and idea that has ever existed. It will be terrifying. But hey, that's 100 years from now, 200 years from now, we could be a very different type of being. Still human, but with pretty fundamental differences in expectations.
Yes, bring on the transhumanists, which brings us really to the final question, Simon, which is, what is your favourite science fiction book, film, TV show or universe?
I really love The Day of the Triffids.
Man, that is a great selection.
It's like the original zombie story. but it's so much more in depth than that, and it really touches some very, very important ideas about humanity, and it's wonderfully written as well. The language in it is, it's from the 50s, so it's very well articulated, and I think it's a great book if you haven't read it.
Yeah, thank you for that. I don't think anyone's ever recommended The Day of the Triffids, and I've asked that question, almost 300 times on this show. But yeah, I mean, I read The Day of the Triffids when I was at school. It was part of our curriculum, I think, back in the day. But looking at it now on Wikipedia, The Day of the Triffids is a 1951 post-apocalyptic novel by English science fiction author John Wyndham. And yeah, so as you said, most people in the world are blinded by an apparent meteor shower, and then an aggressive species of plants starts killing people, and well, it just gets darker from there. But man, that's a fantastic recommendation. Yeah, shout out to The Day of the Triffids.
Yeah, do it. Just read it. I think the audiobook's like 8 hours long or something like that. It's a great Sunday spring cleaning book. It really gets you thinking.
Fantastic. All right. Hey, thank you for coming on, Simon. This has been fun. Very much enjoyed talking to you. Nothing else to say really, except hand the metaphorical microphone back to your good self. Again, look, tell the people why they should keep up to date with what you guys are building at Chainflip. And do you have a Twitter? How can people keep in touch with you and follow what you're doing online?
Yeah, absolutely. Chainflip.io would be the obvious first place to go. Chainflip on Twitter. I'm Simon A. Harman on Twitter. But yeah, I would say that if you're interested in the cross-chain space and interested in new approaches, then I would recommend checking us out and staying up to date. Obviously, it's a fast evolving space, and there's lots of approaches now. I think we've got a pretty unique one. So if you have any interest in that, I'd always love to talk about it. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Thank you, Simon. All the best, and bye for now.
Thanks, Andy.
All right, there you go. That was Simon from Chainflip. Hey, that was cool. Yeah, Chainflip does sound good. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. I like it. And trading the metagame. Yeah, that's a good idea as well. And Day of the Triffids. Classic novel. As I say, I read that at school a long time ago. But tell you what, I'm reading. What my son is reading at the moment is another really kind of old classic semi-sci-fi book, but it is not pure sci-fi. It is The Wasp Factory by Ian Banks. Man, that is a dark book. It's kind of like American Psycho, but a junior version. Yeah, which I guess is why I encouraged my son to read it. It's just opening up his brain to new ideas. That's what reading is all about. Or you can just listen to the audiobook, I guess, right? All right. That is today's show. What an odd note to end on. Thank you for listening, team. Appreciate you listening. As always, don't forget to subscribe to the Crypto Conversation and whatever podcast app you are using so you know when each new episode drops. But that's today's show. This was the Crypto Conversation for Brave New